Join me in welcoming Professor Sarah Sally, who is the Dean School of Women and Gender Studies at Makerere University. A round of applause would be in order. I'm only hearing clapping from this side. Okay, that's much better, thank you. May I also welcome, with great honor, Sheikh Ali Aluma, who is the National Secretary for Social Services, Uganda Muslim Supreme Council. You're most welcome, sir. I would also like to welcome ASP Francis Ogweng, a he for she champion and gender equality advocate. A police officer, a senior police officer in his right. You're most welcome, sir. And to crown it up for our panelists, may I invite Miss Adekemi Adele, Head of Office, Acting in Charge, UN Women. I'll need some lessons on how to pronounce the second name. Oh, Mbieli. Mbieli. There we go. Allow me to recognize that in the building we have the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Gender, Labour and Social Development, who is already here with us. He was around, probably just stepped out a little bit. But also from the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development, we have Madam Maggie Chomukama, Assistant Commissioner for Gender and Women Affairs. Most welcome, Madam Maggie there. Round of applause. And if Doreen says we are good to go, I want to get rolling. Ladies and gentlemen, this session is a dialogue that is going to be telecast live on TV. And therefore, I'm waiting for a signal to tell me that we are good to go, and we proceed. Thank you so much. To start us off, may I request Reverend Mugume Ronald from the Interreligious Council of Uganda to come and give us a prayer. Reverend, please.
Francis Osire is my name. I'm standing in for Reverend Richard Rukundo. Let's honor God in a word of prayer as we are. We thank you, gracious and loving Father, for giving us this opportunity to come together to dialogue and map a way forward on the evil that has bedeviled our society for long, that has warranted a change of what seems to have become normative behavior in most of our communities and even in our households and in our institutions. And so we want to thank you for the organizers. We want to thank you for the partners. We want to thank you for everybody who is a stakeholder. And as we roll out this afternoon, we want to invite you to put us in one accord so that what we agree on, what we are able to point out, let it be for the good of mankind, and especially the female gender. And so bless our time here together, so that in the end, honor, praise, and glory be yours. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Thank you so much, Reverend, for that prayer that has surely gotten us rolling. Ladies and gentlemen, at this juncture, I want to invite, I don't know if the Permanent Secretary is here, but if he's not here, may I invite Madam Maggie Chomukama to come and give an overview of the National Dialogue on Social Norm Change. Round of applause, members.
Thank you very much, Frank. Thank you, Reverend, for the prayer committing us this afternoon's dialogue to God Almighty. Good afternoon to you all. Mine is a simple task. I would like to add my voice to those who have welcomed us to this venue and to say that this is a forum under the theme Addressing Negative Social Norms, Critical for Attaining Gender Equality. So this afternoon's forum is a discussion. It is a reflection and a strategizing moment for all of us to see what is it that is keeping us from attaining gender equality, addressing the inequalities that exist, and also importantly, on this day of ending the 16 days of activism, addressing gender-based violence. So the 4 panelists who have been introduced and will also be introduced in more detail by Frank represent the academia, religious institution, Uganda Police Force, and our development partner, UN Women. So we have 3 objectives. Firstly, this dialogue will highlight the different ways that gendered social norms affect society and hinder us from achieving gender equality, women's empowerment, and also addressing gender-based violence. We want also to use this as an advocacy forum where different stakeholders, as we have assembled here, and those who are online, will look at what are the opportunities that we have, what can we build on, and the slogan these days is how can we build back better in the circumstances that exist. As you know, the COVID-19 pandemic, climate change, and all the other issues that are affecting us globally, nationally, and at community level. But we also want to look at the capacities that we have, the roles of the different actors, all of us represented here. What is our role in influencing social norm change? So basically, that is why we are here. What do we expect to come out with at the end of our 2-hour engagement? We want to see what we can recommend. What are some of the key areas that we can focus on at institutional level as government? What can we focus on as civil society? What can we focus on as religious and cultural institutions? And what can we focus on as citizens and of both our country and the globe to make sure that social norm change is achieved for positive gender equality, women's empowerment, empowerment of men and boys and everyone. So that, in a nutshell, is why we are here. I'll be coming back at the end to see and discuss with you what are the key issues that have come out, both from the panel discussion and also from the audience, and in terms of the way forward. So thank you very much, Frank. I'd like to hand back to you.
Okay, a round of applause, members. I thought that was very critical for our starting off. As you've been informed by Madam Maggie there, the panel discussion, or the panel that we have today, is having representatives from a cross-section of key areas of our society. Professor Sarah Sally from Makerere University is the Dean, School of Women and Gender Studies. And as she'll be telling us, they have a lot of studies, research they do in regards to societies and how they live in terms of gender equality. And she'll be informing us from a research point of view, reflecting on the negative social norms and strategies for positive change. We also have Sheikh Ali Alumaf, who is the National Secretary for Social Services, Uganda Muslim Supreme Council, and is going to be talking about the role of religion in promoting positive social norm change for gender equality and development. ASP, Assistant Superintendent of Police, Francis Ogweng, who is a he for she champion and gender equality advocate, will be talking about male engagement for better delivery of gender equality for development. And then Ms. Adekemi Ndiele, who is the head of office acting in charge at UN Women, will be talking about what opportunities exist that we can leverage on to bring about social norm change for women's economic rights, participation in decision-making, and governance and equality in gender roles. So without wasting much time, may I invite Professor Sali to take us for the next 10 minutes on a reflection on negative social norms and strategies for positive change. You can use the microphone where you are.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. I'm very happy to be here, and I'm happy to notice that at the time we are celebrating the 16 days of activism, the ministry and its partners have chosen to focus on social norms. Because for a long time we have said no to gender-based violence, but we know that there's a difference between what we see as the practice and also the need to understand the structural drivers. Most of the interventions of gender-based violence have been at the behavioral level. We talk to individuals, we tell them to behave better, we tell the victims to say no. But focusing today on social norms means that the ministry and its partners have gone deeper. They have gone beyond the behavior to find out the structural drivers. And when we focus on structural drivers, we ask, what is it that makes this kind of behavior predictable? As you've heard, I'm coming from the School of Women and Gender Studies, which is Africa's biggest and oldest school of gender studies. And we are making 30 years. So the celebration will be in February 23rd to 25th. You're all welcome. Just as a way of background, of course, we all started when we were focusing on women's empowerment. The school starts by focusing on how do we integrate women in development. Okay, then how do we empower women? And then what do we do next? But you see, over time, it has become clear that it's not enough to focus on issues which are with individuals without focusing on issues that are underlying, the things that make this predictable. And that's why I'm happy that at this forum today, the ministry and her partners have decided to focus on social norms. If you all read the background paper that invited us, you must have read that social norms are shared. They are it's like the codification of a particular society. What is it in society that governs how that society will be, how members in that society will exist? Many of us today will identify as, I am a Muganda, I am a Ugandan, I'm Nigerian, Ford Kemi, and everybody else. And of course, when you say that, it comes with a certain taken for granted structure. Of course, Kemi, when we hear that, if someone tells me I'm a Nigerian, for me what I read is a person who is assertive. It means don't joke around. Actually, you're going to be told exactly what the person feels, but you'll also be put in your place. So these are things, we would take it as a stereotype, but they have evolved after a certain kind of thing. If a Muganda is speaking about a Mpisa, because if you're a Muganda, being a Muganda comes with a certain code, which comes with certain impisas, and it's taken for granted, and we don't even think about it. We actually cherish it because they become our identifiers. So why is studying social norms very important? Social norms have a taken for granted structure, okay? We found them here. We are going to leave them here. We don't know where they came from. Our duty is to defend them and, if possible, die for them, okay? Social norms are also important because they are subscribed to by all. Social norms describe our roles and our rights, our privileges and our obligations, okay? Our privileges and obligations. Social norms also define our expectations. For example, if my panelist, Sheikh Ali Aluma, met me and said, of course, by knowing he's a sheikh, I will already know that he's a Muslim. And that comes with certain expectations. So there are things I will not carelessly do around him, but also there are things I will not expect him to do. For example, I won't find him screaming down on the street because he's unhappy, okay? Because being a sheikh is a position of power. It's a position of responsibility. And the norm that comes with that is that he's a role model. And that he's going to model, whether he's able to do or not, he's going to model behavior that the rest of us must copy. So norms define expectations of others about us, as long as you behave like that. Of course, we would have had another Ali Aluma who is not a sheikh, who maybe is a taxi out on the street. We wouldn't mind much what that person does, but the moment you put the title, it comes with certain expectations. Social norms are institutionalized in our different codes. And what are these different codes that have communicated social norms to us? You have, for example, the family, you have religion, you have the school system, you have the place of work. Each one of you here who works somewhere must have received an appointment letter. And that appointment letter has things you'll do and you'll not do. Apart from coming at 8 and leaving at 5 and having key deliverables. You might be happy in your free moment and behave in a certain way, and your PS will call you and says, the way you behaved, you embarrassed the ministry. So you have politics. There are so many layerings, peer groups, I don't know, our marriages. They are all contextual. Different contexts communicate different norms, and they are historical. And that is where the real issue is, that because they are historical, we don't know where they begin from and where they come from. And even when we try to change them, you'll quickly be reminded these are our things. You cannot do much about them. But why are we talking about norms today in 16 days of activism? It's because norms are different for males and females. They communicate different expectations for males and females. Whether you're talking about roles, whether you're talking about rights, whether you're talking about resources, and whether you're talking about obligations. And they have a role in influencing how people behave. And as researchers, making sense of this, one of the papers I teach is actually institutions and social transformation. And the key thing there is, therefore, how do you transform society to be better? We have understood how you can transform a racialized society to being an all-inclusive society. We did that for South Africa. It has occurred in our lifetime from 1994. But what do we do for gender? At some point, you look like you have it. At another point, you look like you have lost it, okay? And the challenge with researching social norms is not just with regard to capturing which norm to study, but also capturing people's sincere feelings about them, okay? Of course, there are those obvious norms that are very easy to deal with. Norms like gender-based violence. Now, right now, there's some kind of understanding that beating another human being is a bad thing. But we still have norms where we think beating children is okay. And we're even proud to say an African child's ears are on the behinds. So unless you beat them, they don't hear. But what does this reflect when those children are going to become adults? And when there's no other child to beat, but there's another adult to beat. So norms are about how behavior becomes normalized. So whether as researchers or as policymakers, it is important we pay attention to how, for example, things like violence become normalized, things like condoning violence become normalized, things like women putting up with violence become normalized, but also other things, other kinds of violence which are not necessarily physical. For example, the lack of resources, the easily stepping down from an opportunity because the male partners will not be happy about this. But having said all of that, and having understood that norms are institutionalized, our role here is not to just accept that norms are institutionalized and we stop there. Our role is to say, so how do we move on from beyond here? And I'm about to finish, Mr. Chairperson. What I just want to say is that the norms that we celebrate today, or that we hold dear today, came up because of a particular reason. Whether it was hundreds of years ago, they came up to resolve a particular role or a particular problem in the societies, in the context, and at the time that society lived. Right now, a lot of change has occurred, even in our lifetime. This gives us an opportunity to know that we can revisit these layers of normalizing behavior, and we do something about it. Luckily, all of these things we have mentioned, whether family, religion, school, politics, work, have both positive and negative things. Within there are things we can leverage, and I think we are going to hear from all my other colleagues. Within religion is not all negative. Within that, there's something we can leverage to transform gender relations. Within families, there's something we can leverage. Within the place of work, within government as a layer that regulates us all, there's something we can do. So I hope by the time we finish today's conversation, we are not going to just leave lamenting, but we are going to leave with strategies that we are going to implement in all our different spaces to make life different, to transform, so that even if we hold on to ebiafe, we hold on to our things which are positive or forward-looking and not keeping us behind. Thank you very much.
A round of applause for Professor there. But before you hand over the mic, Professor, you're into the business of setting questions for your students and asking them sometimes to do either a full essay or bullets. In all that you have said, in bullet form, what do you think would be the strategies for positive change that we can adopt?
The strategies?
Yes.
I think one of the strategies is to work with the institutions that I've mentioned, institutions like family, religion, school, work, and within there explore what we can change. Another strategy is to work with the leaders within those spaces so that they see a need to change. Because as I've told you, the problem with norms is that people hold them dear and they will fight to defend them. So even if someone's norm was dormant and you legislate against it today, resentment and resistance will build. So the best strategy is work with the institutions. When you work with the institutions, what we normally do is we go through with the institutions at what is positive and what's negative. We work out what the implications of the positives are and what the implications of the negatives are. And thereafter, we work out together how we can positively transform what is negative and how we can promote and enhance what is positive. And of course, if that fails, there is the state which legislates for us all. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you so much, Professor, for those key points you raised for us. I want to go to our next discussant, Sheikh Ali Aluma. The role of religion in promoting positive social norm, the way it has been defined and explained by Professor here. What role can religion play? Because sometimes when they are talking about religions, they say you don't have to talk about gender equality when you're talking about religion. Is this the truth? What is the leverage there? Please, Ali.
Yes, thank you. I'm by the names Muhammad Ali Aluma. That's my correct names. I'm a lawyer by profession. Yes, I'm finalizing with my master's LLM. I'm finalizing with the research. I'm the Secretary of Social Services. At the same time, I'm a board committee member of Peace, Justice and Governance, IRCU. That is Interreligious Council of Uganda. And recently, I went for a conference in Mombasa. It was an international conference organized by a US-based organization called Alliance for Inclusive Muslims. Finally, by the end of it, I came as the vice president of the organization. That's all about me. I'm very humbled to be here at this moment. And as rightly stated by Professor Sarah, you know our norms. So I would like to caution Afande that please, you see where I'm seated, very strategically located. So if you are not serious, I might go with both of them, you remain without. It's just a joke. The representative from Ministry of Gender, present here, the religious leaders with us, the UN Women representative, professor from Makerere, Sarah Sali, the civil society organizations that are within here, all distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, our viewers outside there, not forgetting the media team. I start by saying Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May the peace of God be with all of you. That's the meaning of salam. It's just peace. Yes. My topic today is the role of religion in promoting positive social norm change for gender equality and development. I will start by saying religion plays a key role in the lives of many people worldwide. With 84% of the world population associating with a faith. I'm sure all of us here now, if you ask, you will find that at least we belong somewhere. All of us, either a Catholic, a Muslim, or we belong somewhere. So faith leaders are an important and influential factor in the lives of their followers. They are trusted and respected and can be agents of change. Religion provides social cohesion to help maintain solidarity through shared rituals and belief. It provides social control to enforce religious morals and norms to help maintain conformity and harmony in society. It offers meaning and purpose in life as contributors to the greater good in society. Religious practice promotes the well-being of individuals, families, and communities. When people experience an injustice, such as gender-based violence, it is often the religious leaders who are the first responders by using their skills and knowledge to speak up and deliver messages against such inhuman social vices in society. However, it is important to recognize that religious institutions, customs, and practices have created, reinforced, and being shaped by patriarchal structures. Religious and traditional leaders can be part of the problem of gender injustice, maintaining these social structures and perpetuating social norms. But they, religious leaders, can be and are increasingly seen as part of the solution. As far as Islam is concerned, where I belong, in pre-Islam, women had lost all their rights. The birth of a girl was considered ominous. They treated her like stayed or buried them alive. Her birth was not an occasion of rejoicing, but humiliation. In such situation, God revealed a verse to Prophet Muhammad. That was chapter 16, verse 58, which states that whenever the news of a female child is announced to any one of them, his face darkens, and he shocks with inward gloom. However, with the advent of Islam, the distinction between man and woman regarding fundamental human rights was ended. There are many women who became famous, and their names will remain alive in Islamic society, for they played a significant role in education, civilization, literature, art, traveling, self-independence, governance, religion, and piety. And their influence will also be felt in every walk of life. We had the mother of Jesus in Quran has a whole verse named after her name for the greatness of Mother Mary. A whole verse named after her. And when you come to the wife, the first wife of Prophet, Khadija, was a very successful businesswoman. And she supported Islam. That gives us a light of the great women that we have. The noble Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet indicate equity and parity between men and women, although their functions in marriage, family, and society are not identical. The Quran emphasizes that God in his perfect wisdom has created all species in pairs, and so men and women have been created of the same species, as it is stated that he created you from a single being, then of the same kind made its mate. That is Quran chapter 39, verse 6. Men and women were created equal. Islam declares that men and women have equal status and value before God. And piety alone differentiates one individual from the other. That is Quran chapter 30, verse 21. The last sermon of Prophet Muhammad, when he was close to his death, he said, "O people, it is true that you have certain rights with regard to your women, but they also have rights over you. Remember that you have taken them as your wives, only under God's trust and with his permission. If they abide by your rights, then to them belongs the rights too. Do treat your women well and be kind to them, for they are your partners and committed helpers." Women in civilization of Islamic governance, respect towards all human beings regardless of their gender and social status is the primary rule in Islam. As citizens of Islamic governance, men and women are afforded with equal protection and security. The right to vote, the right to nomination for political office, the right to consultation in affairs of the government, the right to express an opinion on political matters, and lastly, the rights to health, welfare, occupation, and education. Men and women are protectors of one another. Islam teaches that men and women were each created for one another. Men should always support their wives, especially during pregnancy and childbirth. They should also become sensitive to women's sexual and reproductive needs. It's also important to recognize women's contribution to the household economy. You can read Quran chapter 9, verse 41, or Quran 5, 32. Women should be treated the best. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, "The best of you are those who are best in treatment to their women." Mothers have higher status and are the backbone of society. I think I'm giving you some of the answers of what you've just asked me, because you said there's no gender equality, maybe according to people's perception. Why? Because the success of society is the result of a mother. Mothers have a major influence on their children and play a great role in their children's upbringing through her love, affection, and knowledge. A man asked the messenger of God, peace be upon him, "Who is most deserving of my good company?" The prophet said, "Your mother." The man asked again, "Who then?" The prophet said for the second time, "Your mother." The man asked again for the third time, "Then who?" The prophet said, "Your mother." For the fourth time, when he asked, "Who then?" that's when prophet said, "Your father." That's the status of mothers or women in Islam. That you give them 75% and man you give only 25%. That's where Islam is. Access to knowledge and education. Both men and women have equal rights to seek knowledge. The prophet said, seeking knowledge is an obligation upon every Muslim. So it's not upon either men or what. Rights to property, wealth, and inheritance. Women in Islam are given their rights to equal pay for equal work. Rights to their own income, property, real estate, to buy, sell, rent her properties, and right to inherit. God said in Quran chapter 4 verse 32, "For men is a share of what they have earned, and for women is a share of what they have earned." So they are equal. I end by saying that I'm sure you will ask me a question, so what do we do as religious institutions? Let me cut you short. One of the things that we would work with as religious institutions, number one, is work with government bodies to empower women in our society. Ministry of Gender, Ministry of Health, and all those other ministries we can work with to see how best we empower our women. Partner with other stakeholders, the civil society organizations that promotes rights of women in society. As Uganda Muslim Supreme Council, since the Constitution was written and the formation of Uganda Muslim Supreme Council in 1972, women were not considered within the structures. Until when, with the wise leadership of His Eminence Mufti Sheikh Shaban Ramadan Mubaje, that's when he said, no, it was an oversight. We need to include women through our structures. And from there, currently we have one woman at the management level that represent the interest of the women. However, we said no, we are advocating for more women throughout the structure, from mosque to the highest body, that is the General Assembly, to be represented. And currently now we are going through the constitutional review of Uganda Muslim Supreme Council, whereby I feel it's very important now to make sure that we advocate for women's leadership throughout the structure. Lastly, use our structures, mosques and churches, in advocating for women's rights in society. I like the title when you called Afande. It has given me another picture. Is it he for she? Yes? He for she, yes. He for she. Yes, now I'm also coming up with an idea. I think I'm going to write a project proposal. Madam, the name is very tough.
Just call me Kemi.
Kemi, yes. I think I invite you to support us in this, because I want also to have imams for she project, so that we can train and equip these imams on how they can help in advocating for the rights of women. Because the moment we have them throughout the mosque, and most of these challenges will go. I thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sheikh Muhammad Ali Aluma, for your moving presentation, I should say. I know that for the colleagues who are in the hall here and those who are watching us from home, This is a message that is very strong from a leader like you, and a message very welcome. Many of us thought that in religion, and not just Islam, even in the Christian faith, they will tell you a woman will not raise to a certain level of leadership. It's up to now that we are starting to see them grow up in the ranks. So it's not unique to any religion, but you have put it straightforward that all religion recognizes the importance of women and girls' rights, and that they don't deserve less, they deserve equal, because you've talked about equality, equity, and parity. Thank you so much, Sheikh, for those remarks. I now want us to move to ASP, Francis Ogweng. He holds that prestigious tag of he for she champion. I wanted to ask him, male engagement for better delivery of gender equality and development. How do we achieve this as a champion? What's your experience? Please take it away.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. I want to thank those in the audience. I want to thank our viewers. I also want to thank our distinguished panelists who are up here, and UN Women and Ministry of Gender for putting this together, and also the TV which is hosting us. I am a he for she. I am very happy about that, and actually the national one. But also some people have gone ahead to call me Sister Francis, which I am okay with it as well, because I have tried to do everything that would bring men and women closer to one another. This thing of sisters at the other side, the brothers at this side, I have tried to do some things to deconstruct those ones. I've tried to also walk a mile in her shoes in Kampala here. I think many of you saw the video. I have tried to carry a baby on my back and also carry water pots and others, just to try to bridge the gap between women and men in Uganda. So my presentation is going to mainly men and boys, because my topic is male engagement for better delivery, and I'll be answering your question. So I'll use illustrations, examples, and testimonies, because the time is small, to drive my point home. Number one, I want to give an example of what I have seen myself in the Uganda police. There is this police officer who used to take his wife as a doormat almost, I need to say, for lack of a better word, and could say, you don't know anything. I brought you to Kampala here. You are the first in your family to cross Karuma, and making the woman look like the woman really is nothing. But when this officer died, unfortunately, they buried him. Then this woman came back to Kampala because she used to see women doing work around Nakawa and other markets. And this woman started working so hard that in just 5 years, this woman bought land in Namugongo and built a house. What this man could not even have done, even if he were to live for I don't know how many years. And I keep asking people, if this man were to come back and find a nobody, someone who knew nothing, is the one owning a home in Namugongo, what would he say? Sometimes I see that as the men, sometimes we are just ignorant, or we don't know what we are doing. And I will give a proposal around that. Then also there is this other family also, where the woman accepted to be what the man wanted her to be, a nobody doing nothing. And also the same thing happened. When this man died, they took the body home, they buried, and this woman was not even welcomed in the village. That was the end of the home of this second man. Because now the woman who used to just receive every morning could not pick up from there. The children now started also just moving, stealing things in the village. So, and that was the end of that family. And yet the first family, now the children are even in schools, in universities, most of them are even about to finish. So if you take those two families and ask the two men, what would you like to be? The family of this first man whose wife came back and did something so great. I also keep asking, if you had allowed this woman to do what she has done now when you are still alive, maybe you would enjoy it together. You would enjoy it together. So there are things that we do which is just taking us back. Then I also want to give another example. Communication Development Foundation of Uganda was doing some work in Gulu in the north. And they picked some very worse men who were very abusive to their wives, to their families, and tried to work with them, to counsel them, to rehabilitate them. And when we went back in that same community, one man who was the worst in the village in terms of drinking, fighting, and so on, by that time, after about a year and a half, they already had a permanent house built together after that change of attitudes and change of mind, and the children now were at school. The man said one thing which I will never forget, that we don't even now need police in this community because police is not helping us like CDFU has done. If we could only have CDFU here, there would even be no need for police. And that was a powerful statement. You can see how we can fight crimes just by empowering families, just by letting people know what they're supposed to do, and crime would even be almost zero. So I take those three examples as really, really, really pertinent in my life. Then I want to also give my own testimony, a very brief one. I want to thank Professor Sally, because in 2014, when I joined the School of Women and Gender Studies, I was also this African man, you know, no nonsense, you know, this African no-nonsense man. When you call, the phone has to be picked that very time. If you take long, what were you doing and where is the phone? I did not know that women don't even have pockets in their dresses. so I learned so much because then even the children used to kind of fear me. Even neighbors, because you need to have a gloomy face to be that good African man. But when I got saved, I want to call it getting saved, because I had learned so much about this equality from School of Women and Gender Studies, I realized that I was really making a big mistake. I converted myself, in quotes, getting saved. I became a very good man. Then I said, where can I start from? Let me start from my own house. My wife just had a certificate, but I said, no, I'm going to support you so that you also come up. I don't want to be like the other second police officer, so that when I die, that will be the end of my family. I supported her, go to school, UCU, and today she's a priest, a reverend. I want to thank the religious leaders who are here. And I look at myself, even if I am to die now, my family will never go back to the village. They will remain here, they will remain studying, and even my name will even remain because of that empowerment. Before, our children will go back to school maybe like a month after the term has opened, or weeks, but today they can also afford to go a day before the term has opened. Because now resources are coming from both sides, this side and the other side. So I see this change of attitude as the best thing that everyone should really do. And I want to say this statement. After understanding the benefits of gender equality and women's empowerment, and getting saved, in quotes, from toxic masculinity, I strongly believe that I'm now a far better man, a far better father, a far better husband than I was before. And this has happened because of the change which has happened in me. That I'm calling every man to go through, get liberated, and change and enjoy life. Imagine the other officer whose wife now is a very rich woman in Nakao Market with a home. If that man had allowed this woman to do that thing when he was still there, I think the man would enjoy so much. So I see that the topic of gender equality, male engagement, is something that even the government should take it up. I want to thank the Minister of Gender, because the Minister of Gender has put all the documents that we need to use. What is remaining now, I think, is implementation. That I call the NGOs which are here, so that we involve men in programming, we involve men in activities, we involve men in understanding. I even suggested one time when I was still at the School of Women and Gender Studies, why are there always 1 or 2 male students in this class? To me, there should have been more male students in the gender class than even women. And I am like, why don't government or Makerere University lobby for scholarships so that more men would go and study for free and they become like me? I want to give a few recommendations. Male involvement is something that we cannot afford to miss if we want really to develop today. We need to create a critical mass of male champions, and also create space where they can speak to their fellow men. I know so many NGOs now working on these areas, but sometimes you don't even see them. They are there in few communities, but if the media and everyone could create space so that such men would come up, give their testimonies, give their experiences, share with fellow men, I see us moving ahead. The reason that we need to involve men are very, very clear. Number one is that because men can change their fellow men. I have spoken in communities and I see the men there listening quietly. Sometimes they give me like 5 minutes, but when I begin to speak, they say, we've given you another 5 more minutes, another 10 more minutes. So that means they are listening to a fellow man, giving their own testimonies, and we'll see them changing at the end of the day. Number two is that because men can use their institutional power to promote change. My colleagues have said men are up there in churches, in mosques, in government, in politics, every men are up there. So they can use that position, they can use that power to promote the change that we need. That is the reason that we need to involve men as much as we can. Number three is because men can be positive or good role models to other men. Where I have lived, at least I have convinced a lot of men to do what I do now. Before it was difficult, because you remember, this thing we grow in it, this culture, someone will grow in it. Someone needs to unlearn or see someone doing, like carrying the babies that we carried. There are so many men carried. I think if we are to do another one, you get maybe so many other men now coming. So men would first want to see who is there leading us. So that is what I propose, that because men can be good role models, so they should be brought on board. Involving men means that women do not have to make change alone. For a long time, the world has left the work of making change to women. But women should not make this change alone. Men should join hands with the women, and we make this change together. And involving men does not mean men are helping women. I want to say this again. Involving men does not mean men are coming to help the women, but it means men are coming to solve their own problems. I have given you my example. Before being liberated, I was suffering. I was even thinner than I am now. And that kind of control used to stress me so much, because if something is not done the way it's supposed to be done, it would stress me. If this chair is just 1 meter away, it would stress me. Everything would stress me. Everything, the stress was too much. But today I'm a free man. I'm a very free man. That is why I think even some weight is coming now.
Thank you. In just a few seconds, if you want to wrap it up.
I'll come back later.
Thank you so much. A round of applause for ASP Francis Ogweng there. He gives us a practical testimony, including himself, And in all the 3 testimonies he has given us, he speaks nothing but empowerment, economic empowerment, and all the other empowerments that you can give everybody.
Tree is below the ground. You are only seeing the manifestation of the tree in the stem and in the branches and in the leaves. What we're saying is that gender-based violence is the stem, the leaves, and everything that you can see. But in the root, what is the root cause, really? Or what are the root causes of violence against women? And at the very bottom of those roots are what we call social norms. Those are things that need a lot of effort in digging out, in identifying, in transforming, and it takes a lot of effort. So these are shared standards that have been constructed over time, like Professor has said, and anything that has been constructed can be deconstructed. Isn't that so? So something that has been built over time can be broken down based on different strategies. And this is what we're trying to do. The Ministry of Gender has been given the sole responsibility of handling community mobilization and social norms change. The issue is, mindset change, excuse me. The issue is, in order to do this, we have to identify those social norms that are repugnant to natural justice, equity, and good conscience. I'm a lawyer. And also those issues that prevent the society from moving forward. And put in place strategies, systems, mechanisms, and institutions to help to perpetuate those positive norms and values that enable the society to make progress and move forward. So my assignment this afternoon is to talk about those opportunities that exist in the context of the women's economic rights, decision-making and governance, as well as gender equality in gender roles. Now, the government has put in place a lot of mechanisms and opportunities to help to transform these social norms. But the issue is that they may not be fully implemented, and they continue to stagnate most of economic opportunities, and sometimes reverse them, as we have seen during this COVID. One of them that has caused a reversal is in the early pregnancy of teens or in the early marriage of teens. That is causing a reversal. Do you know that all girls above the age of 19, 1/4 of them are pregnant in Uganda? Research has shown that 1/4 of girls up to the age of 19 are pregnant. 1 out of 4. That is huge. So, as I said at a meeting yesterday, what does that mean for national development and economic advancement? Where these girls, their lives have been cut short by, there was a girl who takes me as a mentor. She had a relationship with a man, she got pregnant out of wedlock, and now she's so despondent. She feels, what am I going to do? How am I going to continue my education? How am I going to make progress? Where am I going to get money from? Who is going to help me? The man doesn't even want to marry me. What is going to happen to my child? How am I going to make progress? These things are real facts. And research has also shown that 2 out of 10 women are forced to give up their economic earnings to their partner. Just similar to what he said. Now, those partners said, don't get married, don't go to work, but where they go to work, they are oppressed out of those resources. I have a cousin back home in Nigeria who has 3 master's degrees, and her husband said, don't work, stay at home. And she only depends on whatever her husband gives her. That is economic violence, I tell you. She is under oppression, and she cannot make decisions herself. She cannot just decide that today, okay, I want to buy a beautiful dress for myself. She has to tell her husband, write down the list, and then enumerate them, and the husband says, no, you can't have this, no, you can't have it. 3 master's degrees. Now, these things are very oppressive. In Uganda, 1 out of 10 have given up their paid jobs for their husbands. That is economic violence again. So what can be done? Giving the opportunity, helping the communities to see that this violence in us is unacceptable. It is a violation of rights. It is excessive power and control and needs to be addressed. The Women Entrepreneurship Program of the Ministry of Gender goes to every part of the country, and women are there to take full advantage of the opportunity, and we commend the government for those resources. Also, there's the Public Procurement and Disposal of Public Assets Act that provides for the promotion of participation of registered associations of women, youth, and persons with disabilities, respectively. That act, women should take full advantage of that because it positions women to actively engage in supplying goods and services to government, and government is the largest consumer of goods and services. So taking advantage of that act, please, if you are not sure how to do it and you need support, see Barbara there. She's the one bending her head next to this place. Get information from her, and she'll be able to give you that information. These are opportunities that are being created. The formal banking systems are creating opportunities for financial inclusion, and organizations like UN Women, UNDP, and other development partners are supporting those financial institutions to create opportunities for women to engage and to unlock their economic potentials so that they can contribute to the economic development in this country. The level of GDP in any country also depends on how many women are contributing. Because if most of the women are not contributing, but then you now empower them to contribute, tell me if the GDP will not shoot up. So the issue is that economic advancement in any country depends on women. And further, the government should strengthen the livelihoods and economic programs for women. Let me talk a little bit about governance. I hope you are not, how many more minutes do I have?
Just a minute.
Oh, just a minute. Okay, I'll talk about women's participation in decision-making in public spaces. Of course, we know that, for example, women's political choices, a lot depends on their spouses. Many times, the woman will be forced to tell her husband, who are you voting for? I say, who are you voting for? You have to tell him who you're voting for, and you have to toe the line of the husband. Thank God that ballot is secret ballot. So the issue is that apart from being forced to belong to a political party, women also are stressed out of and scared out of political participation because of sexual harassment and stalking and different kinds of unacceptable behavior from different people. There is a research that shows that 26% of women in political parties have been stalked out of participating. They just get scared. Look, sorry, I'm not going to participate because it is too formidable. So these kinds of things need to be addressed, and then UN Women, as well as other partners, the Ministry of Gender, will be working together to create civic education programs that would inform, educate, sensitize the general public and gatekeepers in the community to understand the role and to understand the value that women can play and they bring to the table within the context of political participation. Formal education also needs to be responsive. So Ministry of Education, what are we teaching in social sciences? Are we helping them to understand that women and men have equal rights to participate in politics? How can we stop women from being pressured out of political participation? So government, civil society, development partners, educational institutions all have a role to play in advancing the rights of women and girls within the context of participation. Let me stop here. Thank you.
Wow, a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. You speak very importantly about engagement of women in economic development of a country. And Uganda relates very much. Over 50% of the players in the informal sector, by the way, the informal sector in Uganda is the largest. And the majority of players in that informal sector are women. It's the women in the markets, it's the women who are vending small businesses on the streets. But suddenly and sadly, the women are excluded from financial inclusion. It's hard for those women you see vending stuff on the roadside to go and get credit from the banks. So there is a fix in our economic system. And I'd like to appreciate you that you talked about it. We can't talk about development of Uganda when the majority player in our, what should be generating our GDP is excluded. What development are we talking about? It's like saying a teacher is going to go to a classroom and there are no students or pupils. So we need to ensure, like you've said, that programs that develop women economically are enhanced. And I don't know, would achieve middle income status very fast if the women who are given opportunities to access credit and build their businesses. And research has shown, by the way, that when a woman has money, she will think about her household first, including the husband, the children, whether they're at school, going for medical care. So it makes sense to put money in the hands of women. Thank you so much, Ms. Adekemi, for those points that you raised. And we'd like to appreciate you. And we'd like to appreciate you and women, because you've come up to support the Uganda Women Entrepreneurship Program, which is the flagship program that extends credit to women directly in Uganda without need for collateral. You don't need to be registered. I mean, it's such a very beautiful program. And when you come to support it, we'd like to thank you so much. We are moving on, ladies and gentlemen. I know that we have had a cross-section of views from our panelists here. And I'd like to give an opportunity, just a few seconds, probably 20 to each of them, to have a general view. If you want to comment on the other's presentation, now is the moment. But if there is nothing like that, I'll open it up to the audience and get some 2-3 comments before we come and wrap it up. Any point from here? Okay, please, Sheikh Ali, please.
There's something that she mentioned that was itching me up as a religious, whatever religious leader, about the economic oppression of women. I think Islam envisaged this long time and realized that men are so exploitative in nature, and they will come and oppress these merciful ladies who are always, you know, they are so positive. Women, naturally, the way they are. So in Islam, it is very, very strict that a woman's property and income is exclusively hers, and it's her own. And her husband has no right over it. And she is not obliged to pay any house expenses unless she chooses out of goodwill. If she wants to do it with goodwill, do it. But the responsibility of the house is supposed to be for the what? Definitely woman will help, because will not, but they wanted to avoid that problem that that kind of economic oppression should not be there. So that point is what I wanted to bring out. I thank you.
Okay, let me hear from Professor, then I get back to you, Kemi. Sorry.
Yes, thank you very much, everyone, and fellow panelists. I think just one thing we need to note as we are discussing social norms, it's not like a world of men versus women. Okay. It is that social norms are upheld by both males and females. Even women will uphold negative social norms against women. Just look at how children are raised. Most of the people doing the parenting are mothers. But the same mothers, actually mothers do most of the parenting than the males, than the fathers. So the whole structuring of what a male should be with all those entitlements and excesses, and what a female should be with all those entitlements and excesses, or those limitations and constraints, are very much borne upon the children by the women. The biggest conveyor is women. Look at the relationships of mothers-in-law and daughters-in-law. So as we discuss this thing, we need to know that it's not a world which is clean-cut between women on one side and men on one side. It is a thing which we are all embroiled in, and therefore we all need to work collectively together to make the transformation that we need to have in our societies. And that requires us to look at the structuration process. How do we get to be structured? How do our societies get to be structured? And what are the different things in the naming, in the language, in the religion, in the thinking? For example, many women for a long time thought, or will think constraints around them are a sign of love. It will be a very long time. It will take a very long time for them to understand that actually this is constraint, we are moving into the lane of GBV. But like the situation Kemi talked about initially, it begins with, I love you very much, I don't want to have you out of my sight, or then you will not work because I love you so much, I'm going to provide for you, until it goes on and on and on. So it will take long to know. So let us learn to see these things for what they are, and I hope out of this discussion, we are going to get new lenses to look at these norms, so that even as we raise children or as we raise other people in our households, we can identify and name things for what they are, so that we don't misname things and propagate structural violence against people. Thank you.
Very good. Kemi, please.
Hello. Okay. Thank you. I thank Sheikh for his earlier comments. Yesterday, I think it was yesterday, UN Women, along with the Ministry of Gender, held a meeting with cultural and traditional leaders, as well as the Inter-Religious Council of Uganda, to dialogue around these issues around social norms. Now, imams every week, how many weeks do we have in a year? 52 weeks in a year. The reverends, the pastors have a stage every week to deconstruct and to energize men and women to understand the issues around gender-based violence and to stop gender-based violence. This is why they hold a particular role, because as Africans, we respect our cultural institutions, we respect our religious leaders, and we listen to them, and most of the times, things that happen at community level and within the family are based on what is preached on the pulpit. So I want to use this platform to call on traditional leaders to do everything within their power to ensure that they can help to sensitize the community members, to sensitize the men, to understand the importance about mutual respect, about the dignity of women, about the rights of women. Women have equal rights as men, as enshrined in international and national norms, and we can just use those to help the community to respect one another. So I wanted to use that opportunity and to mention that there is vast resources that the Ministry of Gender can put at our disposal so that these things can begin to happen. Thank you very much.
Very good there, very good. I want to use this moment now to get parting shots from the panelists here on our discussion. Unless there is a key point from the audience that I would pick from Reverend. Okay, in just a minute. Okay, please. Barbara, could we pass the mic?
I think I can read now.
You need to pick the mic because an online, and we're live on TV, so you need to.
Thank you very much. In bullet form. One, as I'm told the mic is not on. Sorry. I think our moderator has asked us to do it in bullet form. One, as religious leaders, one of the things we have committed ourselves is to preach the whole truth. Let me just give an example. When the Bible talks about man, it is not male, it is mankind, which is male and female. Let me avoid preaching here. Number two, men who are here, now that we have International Women's Day, can we begin a Men's Day in our houses? Where we teach our brothers and our sons that, you know, looking down on the mother, looking down on the sister, looking down on other women is sin, is wickedness, and it is backwardness. So that by so doing, we are able to shame those who are perpetrating looking down on women. But we are also able to make famous the likes of Afande Francis, my namesake. I think we need to touch base. Let me leave it at that. Thank you very much. My name is Francis Osiri. I work with Church of Uganda, and I am a priest in the Diocese of Kampala.
Very good. Thank you for that contribution. Any other? If there is no any other contribution there, maybe that's the last. Kindly in 30 seconds.
Thank you very much. I'm Colin Zumujuka. I'm the Secretary of the National Women's Council. I wanted to make a simple contribution in 30 seconds.
Yes.
I think I've noted at parenting time, a lot is lost. And I think if we improved at that level, a lot probably would be achieved. I'm a father of only girls, and I ceased to look at them in form of how many cows I'll get. When we are engaging, we are discussing issues of family development. Probably because it's the option I have, it has shaped and refocused my thinking. Gentlemen, can we refocus? Can we create equality and equity right from our homes? Thank you very much.
You talk about the home, very important units. Everything has to start at the home. Everything has to start at the home. We are talking about teenage pregnancies now, when our children are at home. And somebody was asking, so you wanted the children to be at school? Who is responsible for your child at school? It's a paradox. The child should be safer at home with the parents or the guardians, not at the school with a teacher who you don't know so much about. So this thing of we should open schools so that our children are safe doesn't add up. So when he talks about the family, it rings lots of bells in our mind that we need to refocus, like he says, at the family level. Let's sit down on round tables as a family and have frank and objective discussions on how we should build our families. Thank you so much, Collins, there. I want to come back to the panelists here. Okay, just one, because I'm left with about a minute actually to close this. But you're privileged to have 30 seconds of this minute.
Okay, thank you so much. Mine is just a contribution towards the opportunities.
Okay.
I'm looking at the media as one of the major entry point for addressing social norms. There's a lot that they can play, a lot of roles that they can play in terms of addressing social norms. So we should prioritize it as well.
Thank you so much. The media, you make a very key point, because what kind of content are they airing? Do they give it second thought before they air this? There are shows the UCC, Uganda Communications Commission, has banned because of the nature of the content, not good for children. But what's the level of damage that has already been done? So the media also has a responsibility, beyond us going there to buy time for them to air what we think should be the change we need. They also have a responsibility, because they live within the same society. When there's an issue, it's going to affect us generally. Let me come back to my panelists here. In just a minute, each of you, what are your parting shots as far as our discussion on social norms is concerned today? I'll start with ASP.
Thank you very, very much. Again, I just want to say one or two things. Number one, we need a lot of space provided by the media, by institutions, for male involvement. Number two, negative or toxic masculinity is very, very bad. It kills, and it kills everybody. Men and women, we need to learn to be fair to one another, to be equal. To me, that is what I like most. And finally, is that the benefit of gender equality is for everybody. Everybody will benefit from it, your children, the women, the men, even the society, if we are equal. But we only need to make people know these benefits. Most people don't know. Thank you very much.
A round of applause for
Thank you. My parting shot would be interrupt and deconstruct. Number one, interrupt. Don't be an innocent bystander. If you see violence happening, if you see things that are not the way they should be, interrupt them. And as long as you're safe, but try to interrupt and deconstruct. There are many of us who are in positions of authority in your little workplace. If you see discrimination happening, or if you see people that are acting in such a way that is unacceptable to the general society, deconstruct. Invite them to a discussion and help them to understand why this should not stand. And then we can have a better society for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that point. And talking about interrupting, we have a government toll-free line where you can report violence against children, but also gender-based violence. It's 116. It's toll-free. You don't have to have airtime to be received. Just dial 116. There will be somebody to receive your call. We have professionals who work with the police. We have counselors there, and a team that can escalate this investigation of those cases. So I would like to encourage everybody watching us out there to utilize that line. Don't keep quiet, like Kemi says. Call 116, and we shall come in and solve some of those issues. Sheikh Ali, your parting shot, sir.
Thank you. We appreciate that we are working towards empowering women. Thanks God for that. However, let's not forget to empower boy child, because there's a very big challenge now I've seen. In my office, I can receive over 20 women. However, if you ask them what is the problem, they will tell you a lot of stories, and they're single mothers. Even when now you see in televisions, men are searching for ladies to marry, they will give you all sorts of stories. I want to get a rich woman with what. They are too irresponsible at this moment. Therefore, let us not forget this boy child so that we also support them. And lastly, let's work with the religious institutions because of the structures that we have in place to promote positive social norm. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Professor, please, in about 30 seconds, you take away.
Thank you very much, everyone. As we've observed this afternoon, social norms are both physical and structural. Negative social norms continue to exist because they are normalized. They look normal, they look like generally how society works. They are institutionalized. We are all victims as well as perpetrators of these negative social norms. And many times we blame people, but I think my real parting shot is going to be capacity building. In the past, we used to take on people, you have not done gender here, you ignored gender here, until some people asked us, but what does it really mean? Before you criticize us, can you show us what to do? And as a school, under the Gender Equality Project, we went into a process of producing gender toolkits. If you want gender mainstreamed in agriculture, what do you do? Can you prepare it in simple terms for people at LOC 3 level, for people at LOC 5, and in community engagement? Right now, we are talking about negative social norms that propagate GBV. It is high time we got to produce this and translate it in normal terms so that those we expect to stop the negative social norms can understand what we are talking about. Some are beating their wives and thinking it's a sign of love. So in short, we need to stop negative social norms. We need to intervene to stop them rolling. But to do that, can we build capacity of whoever we need to work with so that we're on the same page, so that before we condemn them, let us empower them to do the right thing. Thank you.
Very good. A round of applause for the team of panelists this afternoon who have ably discussed the issue of promoting positive social norms and doing away with those that are negative in the current context of the globe. I'd like to thank you so much. ASP Francis Ogweng, thank you so much. Professor Salihia from Makerere University. She's the Dean School of Women and Gender Studies. Thank you. I would like also to thank Ms. Adekemi Ndiele, Head of Office, UN Women, acting in charge. And lastly, I want to thank Sheikh Muhammad Ali Aluma from the Uganda Muslim Council for your contributions. A round of applause for them. Ladies and gentlemen, at this juncture, allow me to take this opportunity to invite the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Gender, Labour and Social Development, to come and speak to us and officially close this discussion.
Thank you, Frank. I hope I'm fair enough, but vaccinated twice, so waiting for the third, which would be very unfair for those who have not yet and want. That's the unequal world we live in. The country rep, UN Women, religious leaders, representatives of government departments and agencies, representatives of the private sector, civil society, distinguished panelists, all participants, physical attending and those virtually attending, and ladies and gentlemen. My name is Bernard Mjuni. I work with the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development. But over this week, I committed and was praying so much at around 3 when there's no traffic jam of prayers to God. And so God had my prayer that I would be permanent secretary, even if it meant just for the afternoon on this occasion. So, what a privilege. at least I can put it down in my record that I was for the afternoon. When the PS requested me, we had a conversation, and he told me, this is the area where you have a lot of passion. I told him, sir, I'm more obliged to read your notes. And so, I want to thank you and welcome you for convening here today as we conclude this year's 16 days of activism campaign against gender-based violence. The campaign was launched in Kamdini sub-county in Oyam district on 26th of November under the theme, Orange the World, End Violence Against Women Now. We are well aware that every time you discriminate, you discount the productivity of the other gender, and also you impact on the national GDP. Now, Uganda loses 3% of GDP because of discrimination, and this is structural discrimination, exclusion from participating in economic development of this country. And this is not a trend that we can sustain if we want to be a middle-class country. The national theme was adopted from the global campaign theme, which refers to orange, color orange, a symbol of brighter future, free from violence. The statement, Orange the World, indicates the need to speed up the campaign message to everyone throughout the whole world. And I remember very well, I relate with issues discrimination. Now, I was behind the establishment of the Equal Opportunities Commission in 2000, early 2000, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And by then the debate was very hot on issues of discrimination. There was a lot of effort, a lot of enthusiasm from the women movement, from activists. You remember the senior activists like Miriam Matembe, Honorable. You know, there were a lot of, champions. And then the stamina was so strong. But somehow it is dying down. Why? Why? Is it because of social media? Digital age? Why? Why? And I have lived to see with my own eyes. We know that, for example, among the people in the Western Uganda, and among the Ankole, the woman would not eat eggs. They would not eat chicken, and up to now there are some people who do not. They would not eat gizzards. Gizzards are for men. You know, these are very, very, very nutritious stuff. Yeah? Very nutritious stuff. Listen, yeah? The gizzard is for the man. Where is my chicken? The gizzard is the only chicken. Should you have chicken at home and he does not eat gizzard, even actually today, then the chicken is not a chicken. Do you see what it means? Because it impacts on the nutritional status of the family and the children. The woman is breastfeeding, but he cannot eat eggs, chicken, gizzard, the best of the best. Later on, even liver. Yeah, they roast it and they eat it before even the actual meat and the meat is ready. Yeah, and kidneys. The woman wouldn't see all those. It's terrible, as it appeared. Let alone sitting at the table, the high table, to eat. And high table is decision-making, discussion. It's about candid eye-to-eye contact. It's about openness, integrity, But the woman would sit down and the man sits on the table. Even later on, whistling. You know what? Women wouldn't be allowed to whistle because then it was thought the cows wouldn't give milk. But whistling is about soothing. It's a therapy. It's an expression. It's love. It's fun. It's singing. It's creativity. It's music. It is stress relieving. Are we together here? And these are the things that we talk about. We've lived with as part of the norms. And I remember, and I correlate with what the ASP say, that when a woman loses the hubby, she lives long. And my thinking was that now we might instigate some kind of thing. And they say, you know, you let the man go after I can over my age. No, that can be also another norm. But norms just emerge because someone is benefiting from the same. It denies you the opportunity and then they take it all. Just like corruption. Just like, you know, discounting your effort even at work. Someone just takes a benefit. I remember very well when I was growing up, because I'm a storyteller, I grew up with my mother, and I mean my grandma and my papa. I lost my dad and mom at the age of 6. And so I'm a product of the community, of mother, of the woman that taught me poetry that I write now. You see, storytelling, so that before you sleep, they can sing for you some lullabies, and then, but those are the things that now I manifest in my writing. You understand what I'm saying? So I have manifested all this, and I remember one of the practices when we used to go to the kindergarten, I mean, it is a church school. Some of you did not, you know, we wrote it, you know, on the floor. You could just spread the sand and write. That was the material available. You see, now you write on computer, you type, even paper is becoming history. We wrote on the sand as a first level of instruction. And I remember the PE of then, those who are almost on the 5th floor or 5th plus, the PE, what is PE? Political education? Physical education, yeah, physical education. They would, you would undress actually, very early in the morning. First of all, you reach school through the morning dew and mist, you're wet, your uniform, and even books are dripping. Then they remove the shirt. And even ladies, girls would remove the dresses. You start spreading, yeah. But we had relatively older girls who had started, you know, bringing up, you know, all the features, puberty. And I remember as children, how come this one? Ladies would just keep holding themselves like this, holding. But I didn't know that that was violence, that was abuse. Because the teachers were much more older, probably they would enjoy it. Or in a way, they would have stopped. Because I remember there's one lady, one girl, Kadada. She stopped, she reached a level and she couldn't dress anymore. So we wondered why she was missing our class, but she had matured a bit. So you can see in education how discrimination can be propagated. And I've lived with that experience. As a matter of fact, we lost one of our OGs in P7 because she was impregnated by the teacher and she couldn't deliver. And so these are the things that we talk about that have shaped the story, a man in this country, in this Africa, in this world. So I know there's a lot of written speech, and but these things go through life experience, because everyone is here sharing the story. We are not reading encyclopedia. So the campaign has been wide range. If I don't read this text, then my job today would be at a risk. The campaign has been marked with a wide range of activities at national, local government, and community level, and geared towards raising public awareness about GBV. I'm happy to note that this year's campaign and the other campaigns commemorated in previous years have contributed to the increased level of awareness against GBV. And it has built the level of confidence for people to come out and talk and tell the stories so that they are learning examples. Today's dialogue on social norm change has been organized by the ministry to highlight the impact of social norms on shaping the perceptions, values, and practices that inform gender relations and the prevailing gender inequalities, including GBV. Government of Uganda has set an agenda for promoting gender equality, and this commitment is clearly articulated in the Uganda Vision 2040, the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, especially Article 8, capital A, that has imported the national principles and objectives of state policy as part of the Constitution. Uganda shall be free and fair from all kinds of discrimination. Right to environment, right to, economic and livelihood as a right guaranteed by the Constitution. The Uganda gender policy and different legal and policy instruments. You also, and the professor talked about this, if the woman would feel like if some women are not beaten by men, then they don't love them. Since when did love become painful? Since when did love go through the whip and the stick? It is, you see, that rude kind of change, the norms just are like extremism. They can excavate and they become part of, abuse, If you don't beat me, you don't love me. So you just come and create a situation where the man should beat you. Sincerely speaking, we must fight this. Exactly. And today I was reading one of the articles in the News Vision, and someone talked about media, where a boy, out of fear of punishment, committed suicide. Why shouldn't we talk to the boy child? Why shouldn't we create a situation where making a mistake is part of life? It's part of learning. Even business, you will start a business, you fail. But you don't fail to start because you learn from that failure. In some of the groups, it is too much. For example, refugees. 82% of our refugees here are children and women. Did you know that? That's a very, very startling statistic. And that sends a message in terms of livelihood pattern. Where do we put more effort? How can we tap this population dividend to be more productive, more active, more sustainable, and change and create the future that we want? In this drive, there are low-hanging fruits. As you realized, the sheikh told you he's going to summon the imams, and that's almost cost neutral. It's about attitude, changing the norm. And we began with a stable, we've begun with everybody here. I really appreciate, and I'll convey this message to the leadership of the ministry. This dialogue, therefore, is an opportunity to discuss the pertinent issues of social norms with different stakeholders, the academia, religious institutions, the UN, family, and the civil society, and the civil servants and leaders in different areas. I wish to appreciate the collaboration of the stakeholders who have participated actively in various activities during these 16 days of activism and campaign. I also wish to extend special gratitude to the UN women in particular, and development partners and all the stakeholders. Allow me also to say that there is a lot that is going on institutionally in terms of reform, in terms of merger of institutions, in terms of, deliberate reforms. Yes, could be good, but probably some might border on an availability of space that we have been enjoying. And for this, I'm allowing a discussion contributing to engaging Equal Opportunities Commission to see how it can push forward and don't get lost in the process of the current mergers. So, with those few words, especially my last shot, which is either the killer or, when in boxing, when you throw your last and you don't get the target, then they finish you. Okay? And please don't allow me to be finished. We need to gather the space and see which agencies have we been working with, because most of the agencies are putting quasi-legal and judicial powers back to the mainstream service, which is bureaucratic probably in terms of decision making, in terms of justice, dispensation of justice, and we need to advise government where we can engage and say, here, this is where it should be. It's a candid submission, but we need more space to engage government to see where we can create value as partners, civil society, UN, and other agencies. With those few remarks, and since I have this podium, I'm protected, I want to declare this workshop and congregation closed and wish you the best of luck. And Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Thank you so much. God bless you. For God and my country.
Thank you so much, PS, for effectively pulling the curtain on this dialogue this afternoon. My role is to thank all the panelists once again, thank everybody that turned up for this dialogue, and to join my voice with that of the Permanent Secretary, wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. See you next time.